Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is a chess show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and today we have our regular contributor, Professor Ken Regan. Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you very much for having me on. Welcome to a beautiful day in Buffalo. I'm going to bicycle to campus again.
Okay, great. And now all attention is on America Cup. Are you following that?
That's right. I am officially following it. I have actually
Mm.
not looked at the games. I was looking through more games from Prague, but
Okay,
The
let's.
American Cup hasn't really taken shape yet because even the losers haven't lost yet. They've really
Mhm.
gone down to the second elimination bracket and have a chance to resurface to the top.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly. But
Yeah.
in a day or two, that will become the main show in town.
That's right. It probably already is. It is an interesting format because the players per day play one classical game and one rapid game, and
Yeah.
then they repeat that. So then it's out of four. And
Hmm.
then if the match is still tied, it can go to a blitz playoff, and that already happened. So there is actually, there is one fantastic game that I will show. Um, so um, and there was also one very very strange drawn game. So let me also do that. Other news, of course, is we are grateful that the candidates matches solved all the visa issues and are going ahead as planned, um, and also that uh, that the candidates match is going ahead as planned, and well, there's other news in the chess world with accusations over Title Tuesday again too, and I've been kept very busy looking at those as well. So
So
um,
who is now being accused of cheating?
this is a player named Jose Eduardo Martinez Alcantara. Jospem is his name, and is his handle, and he is um, well, the Kramnik yesterday, on Tuesday, resigned against him after one move as black. Pulling an exact repeat of what Magnus Carlsen did to Neiman. But this was after losing four games to him, including two on one day in Title Tuesday competitions earlier this year.
Hmm.
So, um, and so it's you know unclear. There was certainly some previous impetus to this. Um,
And what is his performance over the board in normal chess?
well, he's a 26-10 player,
That's
and
not so bad.
yeah, so um, so the um, here's the game that I want to show. Um,
Okay,
he's,
let's go to
he's
the game.
he's a 26-10 player, and I measured him fairly well to be exactly that. So I have to say that I find nothing, even just cherry picking his four wins over Kramnik. His performance is only slightly elevated and within the error bars. I mean, it is above normal, but if I then uh, do a cherry picked list, including Kramnik, with other players like Feruzja and Caruana and Carlsen, whom he's beaten at least once and who are over 2650 rating.
Hmm.
So if I take that larger selection of games, it is completely normal, uh,
Okay.
completely on expectation. So I'd have to get supplementary information if there's any real suspicion, if there are some moves where his play on video or through the interface is a little bit odd. It's also apparently chess.com visited his house and had it play while streaming, and nothing was found. So this is this is part of again um, what I see as my duty to offer some public explanation. I responded to some of Vladimir Kramnik's claims um, or before Christmas, in an article that was titled "Am I Cheating at Wordle?" And now I have to do a part 2 of that, apparently. So that's what's going on my end.
So it would be very interesting to organize his match with Neiman and to see who is one stronger player.
Yes, well, Neiman, outrates him by 80 ELO or so. So I would make Neiman the favorite. But he did beat Neiman in their game. So I included Neiman in my list of cherry-picked games. So, but of course, I'm measuring the intrinsic play. You can beat someone when they play very badly. And that was in the case against Carlsen. So anyway, yeah, it is a bit of a mystery. I will be able to show that there is no overall massive tendency in Title Tuesday to have people cheat. That sort of thing I can show in large data. So in fact, from all last year, so taking one summary of all the Title Tuesdays, calendar year 2023, the average reading on my 0 to 100 scale with 50 the expectation was 49.95. Now that does include a few cheaters, but when you have 180,000 data points, plucking just a handful of people out is not going to move that meter much. Agreed. The point is, this is very clear evidence against there being a general tendency of, say, a tenth of the players to cheat on any given day, which is along the lines of what Kramnik has been alleging. So I can definitively refute that kind of predicate. But with individual players, it's hard to prove a negative. You can just explain the absence of your positive and certain cross countervailing indicators that witness, this really should be normal. Like when I vary the sample, when I play with his rating, things like that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So, so I wanted to show a couple of games from the lower sections at Prague, and actually I'm going to start a calculation going with data that just stopped. Okay, so that's going to chug, but let me share my screen, and so I'll show two games in the challengers by up-and-coming young players, not as young as the players in the future section, who were almost all rated under 2200. Oh, so actually, yes. So first, I'm going to show a game by Anton Karabov against the veteran Ervin Lamy, which has some interesting just play by Black on the queen side. So Queen's Indian defense, but it gets more than usually combative fairly soon. Okay, so White goes for this voluntary capture of Black's knight. Okay, I'm not a book maven, so I don't really know what is happening, but White does inconvenience Black's structure. Okay, and this position will get fairly tactical fairly soon. Okay, so Black plays knight a6. This is how I have always generally played this structure. The knight is going to come to c7 and e6 as the diagram is showing, and there we are. Happens right away. So White does not have an edge in this position, but White nevertheless goes for attacking play. So you have to, fortune favors the brave, but sometimes you have to second guess this kind of decision. And the point is that Black actually can afford not to react immediately in the center, because White has an Achilles heel in this position. It's White's d pawn. Black has an effective counterattack against the d pawn. So the perhaps surprising move b5 knocks white's queen away from guarding it. So that now when black plays queen b6, the point is that if white captures on d5 or otherwise tries to exploit it, then black will be able to respond by capturing on d4. Okay, so or black could just recapture. It's guarded by the bishop, and then white's d4 is exposed. I imagine that's what black would do. Anyway, white felt an urge to rebuff the pressure against d4 by driving black's bishop away. Okay, but now this is a definite concession. So there are two weak pawns in this position. There's white's d4 pawn, which is a base, and there's black's c6 pawn, which is a base, but white is nowhere near attacking this c6 pawn. Usually when this c6 pawn is vulnerable, white is attacking it with a knight on e5, but that's not the case. White is nowhere near doubling on the c file, and black's bishop on b7, although passive, is a rock-solid defender of that pawn. Okay. Plus, actually, that pawn itself has a lust to expand, and white cannot stop that. So this is the real tactical point in the position, is that white is actually not able to get enough pressure on d5, okay, in order to stop. And in fact, what white did was feel the need to overprotect on d4, but that ran right into the queenside counterplay that I mentioned. Okay, so white now repositions the knight, and now that c pawn that was backward has become a pillar of strength, the forward vanguard of black's position. And so the only question is whether black has anything to fear on the king side, but really not. White's bishop on g2 is maybe can go to h3 and pressure there, but otherwise it's not really going to join the fray. So white played a solid move, but here comes black, here comes white, here comes black, and okay, bishop goes to h3, but actually that's the chess base is saying that's a mistake. And the problem is that after these two moves, the bishop is striking at empty air, and meanwhile here come black's space invaders. So it is black actually who takes advantage of squares on the king side. And now after white's king h1, tactically mistimed, it is suddenly white who is going to come under a withering attack on the king side. The h4 pawn is doomed, and black has a latent threat on the queen side of c3 and making a passer, which means that white cannot completely come to the defense of the king side. Okay, so here we go, h4 pawn, white's light squared defending bishop is gone, and that was actually the f4 pawn that fell. Okay, well, this is pretty desperate. We'll get rid of one defender, and here comes the c3 breakthrough that I was talking about, and now white is losing on both sides of the board. Okay, and so I don't know why b1 knight is showing up in the feed, but anyway, rook takes c3. Black is crashing through. Black also has all the squares covered. White can't get anything with queen a8 check because black's rook just comes back, and that was the end of the game. White gives up. Black's pawn is queening next move. Okay, so a definite, interesting counterattacking game by black. Now, let me tell you that the intrinsic rating of the Prague Futures tournament that I measured just now with Stockfish 11 is 2090. Okay. Whereas the average ELO of the players weighted by the moves was 1770. So the intrinsic quality of the Prague Futures tournament was 420 ELO above. And that's in the realm of my pandemic lag adjustment still being very, very important. So let me actually show another tab of the kind of thing that I'm talking about in the futures tournament. So let me stop sharing and go to the FIDE page of this player. I think I actually may have showed this. I was showing this at the very end last time. but this is still a very important point. So I'll share screen again, and this time I'll share just this tab. Okay, so there he is. This is the winner of the Prague Futures Tournament, Ashnanda Nerurkar. But he was rated on the wall chart 1786 for February. That's after playing many tournaments in India against similarly underrated youngsters whose ratings were paused during the pandemic. Now, Mr. Nerurkar did not even get a FIDE rating until the middle of the pandemic. So I have to project him based on this. But already a lot of the players that he was playing, age categories just slightly above him, had ratings that were 300, 400, 500 points lagging because they'd been frozen at their pre-pandemic values, while through online chess or coaching or whatever means, the players had actually improved in skill. So that's why his gains are very modest until suddenly he comes to Europe, comes to Serbia, and playing European players whose ratings had already adjusted to their right values, or it's close to it, and not young kids necessarily. So established players, and he gained 370 rating points. So that really is closer to his true strength. Okay, but be that as it may, I'm going to go back to what I was showing and capture a prodigy who actually has caught up to my pandemic lag estimate of his rating, and that is Ediz Gürel of Turkey. So I'll show you one of his very interesting games. So now back to this. So it's actually the game just under this against Herbeck, and this actually shows remarkable maturity for a youngster, because we are going to win in a way that maybe Bobby Fischer had in mind when he played the white side of the Exchange Rui. Here we go, Exchange Rui, and Queen F6. Well, we'll get the queens off very soon here. Okay. There they are. They come off. Okay, this is a very typical position for Exchange Rui. I mean, as similar pawn structure to the Berlin, but not really as typical of the Berlin. So the question is, White, how great is White's edge? White's latent edge is that has an extra pawn on the king side, whereas Black's queen side majority is stulted. And I have to say, I don't like this with Black, because Black hasn't really put together a plan to pressure White with the open e-file, and White has the initiative of fingering things on Black's king side right away. With that said, it's a maneuvering game, and Black actually plays rather bravely to try to stake out space on the king side right away. Okay, so now White is playing positionally here. White in the white side of the Exchange Rui often puts the pawns on light squares as a positional lock. They hem in Black's light squared bishop, and they will also promote, certainly, perhaps eventually, occupying the c4 square. Okay.
Actually, about c4 square, a couple of moves ago, instead of playing g5 and bishop e6, don't you think that Black could play better with knight c4?
Yeah, that's quite possible. I think knight c4, and then well, after b3 though, where does the knight go? It goes back to d6. I don't know. That could be a little clumsy.
Yeah, because e5 is not necessary, because knight f5 would be played. So on the other hand, if you play even f3, Black is knight on d6 is not too impressive either.
Yeah. So it's unclear. I might have played rook g8 in this position, or rook. So, but it's awkward. I mean, the bishop on d7 has to be guarded. And it doesn't have very many squares. So this is just awkward. I mean, I could see these moves. A5, I don't know, A5, B6. These moves make sense. The The king is an active piece, use it. Now white starts maneuvering toward the c4 square. So the point is, if white puts a pawn on c4 and just keeps it, it immobilizes black's 2 pawns. Whereas what black positionally wants to do in this position is get in the move c4. And it really actually looks like black should be able to get that in, because you can play c4, double up the pawns, play knight e5, and then white has, white's up a pawn. White's up a healthy pawn on the king side, but has some weaknesses on the queen side that you could play against. So this on the other hand, black maybe has ideas of f5 in this position, putting the king there. In fact, that's what black did. So black is trying to get counterplay against white's king side, but it's risky. And in fact, it's left open now that white is able to infiltrate. And in fact, now the c4 square is not being minded at all. So white does occupy it with a knight rather than with a king. So this is right now a position, and white's idea of a light square bind is still on. Okay, so white is also going to play g4. Obviously, b6 is attacked as well. So black guards it. Now white plays here. Okay, so black gets a little bit of activity and control over this, but white is infiltrating black's position. Black has just no way to come in and attack anything of white's, whereas white's rook is going to go to the 7th rank. So already here, ChessBase rates that white has a decisive advantage, and in fact, black lashes out. The one thing he can do is take advantage of the e4 square, but even that's not really a threat. White can just ignore it. And now here we come, winning something and going to win back. And black just gave up. This is hopeless. Two pawns on the queen side.
Yeah.
So a really mature game, a game where looks like nothing is happening, and then, however, white got a nice edge, maybe with good preparation. I'd say out of the opening by move 15, and then just knew how to maneuver very patiently, and black fell apart. So, that too.
I think a change variation is making comeback.
I don't know. Well, see, the point is that that black can play the Berlin. The question is whether there'll be any transfer of ideas from the exchange to the Berlin. So this happened because black played a6. So, anyway, I'll show one game from the America's Cup.
Yeah, let's see that.
Yeah. So here we go. Okay. So now one more tab. So there was in fact a very exciting game by Ray Robson. I have to say that when I'm monitoring a tournament, I don't always look at the games because maybe I don't want that to color my impression. But anyway, there's nothing going on there, so I could. So Nimzo Indian, is that a rare visitor to the world stage? White plays knight f3 more often nowadays. But okay, we get the absolute classical Nimzo Indian, but with knight e2. Okay, so how are we going to make an active game here? Well, one thing is to take back with the knight, and now we get an isolated queen pawn type position, and we are going to have it because black didn't capture on c3, and white didn't try to force back to retake with the pawn on d5. So here we go. So the point of the isolated queen pawn is the Isolani is a weakness, but white is more active. And in particular, with white's bishop on c2 rather than e2 or c4, there's already an army looming over black's king. So, okay, so white keeps things on, and here we go. Crude checkmate threat, which black parries by making a checkmate threat of his own. White parries that. Black parries that by bringing the knight back to guard h7. And this now opens the d file for black's rook to come to d8. But, however, after a few more moves, what we see is that White's actually has the better placed army. Now, the knight on e2 is actually a strength in White's position because it's protecting and overprotecting d4. So Black now has to justify the placement of the queen on h4.
Actually, that's weakness now. This queen on h4 doesn't have too many moves.
That's right. Yeah, does not. And of course, we saw on last week's show Black getting a queen trapped on h4 in a position. But okay, so Black now maybe is thinking reorganizing, maybe hoping to simplify. I think Leonid Dominguez Perez at this point decided, you know what, my kingside activity backfired. I now have to recircle the wagons, maybe try to occupy some light squares, but Black isn't really very well placed to occupy light squares. So instead, we bring back the knight instead of trying to maneuver it towards c4. And Black is a long, long way from occupying any light squares with his bishop. He's got to play b6 and bishop b7 if he wants to do that. And White says, no, you're not going to have time to do that. Here comes the army. And so, in fact, this made Leonid Dominguez chicken out of placing the bishop on b7, tries to place it via c6 instead.
But g5 is threatening. G5 is a dangerous move.
Yeah, that's right. And the actual drawback of this is that White sets up a battery of against Black's bishop on c7. Okay. So as this is threatening g5, and Black cannot take it because then Black would lose the bishop on c7. Now I don't have an engine going here, so it says say White's advantage is decisive, but you know what? Actually, there's more. G5 is G5 is not just discovering a battery on Black's bishop on c7. G5 is trapping the queen. So that actually is what Black was inattentive to. So
what
now we really have a double threat.
G6 is on the move here.
Yes, G6 is played. And now point is Black can't capture on h5 because of the discovery on c7. So Black has to move back, and now comes a star move. Okay? Now this is doable because when we capture, we don't have to. When Black captures as is forced, we don't have to recapture. Instead, we can invade your house. So disaster unfolding, probably both with g takes f7 and rook takes f7. So the fact that Black has won a piece, rook takes f7 is the move. The fact that Black has won a piece doesn't matter too much here because we're coming for Black's queen. So that actually is the
and king too, both and king as well. So
yeah, king.
For both.
Yeah, but this is certainly an imaginative way to hunt down Black's queen. So here now Black is hoping to get in bishop h2 check and bishop c6 check as a cheapie, but now we're not going to have that. That's funny. I was expecting rook f1 here, but instead White decided to come back and infiltrate with the queen. So now rook h7 is a really a threat that is almost unparryable, except you need to have calculated ahead and seen what you're going to do against that. And so this is very interesting. Now the queen is being attacked from this direction. And it looks like Black can get a discovered check mating combination. Certainly if White's king goes to the corner, Black would have bishop c6 check. But White now has a very brave king. Okay, do your worst, invade me on f1. Okay, but now your queen's still attacked. And so now Black has to give up something. So one thing, by the way, about this is that White does have a threat. It's rook h8 check and queen h6 check and queen h7 mate. So Black continues this attack, but and is able to trade off the queens. But now black is left with a pawn down hopeless position. So,
Absolutely.
and now Ray Robson converted this smoothly. 2 pawns down hopeless position. Okay, 1 pawn down hopeless position. Even more hopeless position. You're about to get mated. Okay, and that's,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Okay, now we're up a piece, and that was the end of the game. Bishop h7 check coming. So a very interesting play there as well.
Yeah, very enterprising play, and I think Queen h4 probably caused a lot of troubles later on in the game.
Mhm.
But at that time, when the move was made, it looked kind of natural, almost multifunctional move. It was attacking and defending, and it
Right.
was so great until a few moves later. Well,
Yeah.
very interesting, Ken. So let's now concentrate for the next program on America Cup,
Okay.
because there are some latest games that are very interesting, quite enterprising as well.
That's true. Yeah, we will
of
be sure to
fighting.
cover the ladies' side. Yes.
Okay, so we'll see you. Thank you so much for today's program, and
Okay.
we'll see you next week, same place, same time.
Yes,
Thank
I'll
you.
be. Actually, yeah, I'll be on from New Jersey, I think. Okay. All right. Yep.
Okay,
Okay.
bravo. Thank you very much, Ken.
Yep.
Bye bye. See you next week.
Bye bye.
All together. Bye bye.